Hey, it's Paul. Welcome back to B&B Talk. I need you to do one thing for me. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for checking this out. Interesting episode today. We see Ridge and Caroline, and they're spending some quality time together. But eventually things get serious, and Ridge asks why Caroline didn't tell him about the accident. And, she says he had a lot on his plate. She didn't want him to worry. And then she gets into what happened because Ridge asks her what happened during the accident. She tells him, the horror of being pinned underneath a car, and it gets pretty deep, and she breaks down, and in the end she sort of chalks it up to everything happening for a reason. It's pretty touching. We also see Maya and Nicole, and they are talking about what happened with Rick, because she sees that her sister isn't packing, and she tells her that Rick and her had a talk, and it doesn't mean that they're back together, but it does mean that they've got a long way to go to get things sorted out. And she talks about the mistakes that she made in not coming forward sooner, and that's her biggest regret, that she would have given him the option of knowing sooner, because she knows, because she's gone online, that the things that she's reading are humiliating to Rick, and he just can't snap his fingers and get over it. But Nicole is an optimist and says they belong together and that he does love her. But Maya chalks it up to saying we're kind of the opposite, because you trusted everyone, and she says, and I'm the opposite. I don't trust anyone, not even the man I love. And the last thing we see is Maya telling Nicole that Ridge is after the company, and that she told him to do everything in his power to fight for it. We also see Ivy and Liam and Steffi, and they're stuck in this same situation where Ivy's posed the question whether Liam loves Steffi or not, and Liam has to answer it. But we see that Liam's not in a rush to answer the question, and Steffi sort of bails him out because she keeps interjecting and sort of changing the subject or switching tables on Ivy so that so that Liam doesn't have to make an answer. So it's still the same thing. I mean, Liam's always being rescued by one damsel from the other damsel. So I don't think we're going to find out anything really soon on what his true feelings are for Steffi. At one point, Eric shows up, and he sort of cautions Liam not to get too far ahead of himself. And then they have words about how this went down. And Steffi jumps in and reminds Eric that a lot of this is Rick's fault and that he did not control Rick's behavior. But Eric says that Rick's learned and he's going to be better in the future. But nobody's buying this. We see Rick and he's talking to Bill, and this is fun time for Bill because we finally get to see him have Rick in the situation where he wants. I mean, he has a lot of fun with it, but Rick makes a case that they both get to stick it to Ridge if Bill joins them. And he said, wouldn't you like to, stick to someone who's sleeping with your niece? Now, Bill's got a lot to ponder. And Bill says to Rick, you must despise your own brother even more than you despise me. And Rick says, yeah, but not by much. So Rick is not really getting on his bended knees for Bill. But Bill does give him a warning that if he's active in the company, it's going to be more than just a passive interest, that he will actually exercise this role. And Rick says he knows, and one time he almost refers to it as Bill's company, and Bill says, don't get too far ahead. I'm not buying the sales job too much, We know that they're both sort of doing this dance, and Bill actually goes one further and says he did Rick a favor by putting his business out there, and now he helped him out by getting rid of Maya. But Rick tells him, no, you didn't, and I'm still in love with her, and we're still together. So we know that Bill is not cozy with either side, so we'll have to see what happens. But eventually Rick goes to see Eric and tells him that Bill really hasn't made a decision yet. It doesn't take long for Ridge to show up, and Ridge tells him that he's got the papers, he wants them signed. Liam and Steffi come in, and it's time, but not before Bill walks in, and Rick sort of throws it in their face that this isn't a done deal. And Bill steps up and he sort of rehashes what their options are and puts Ridge in his place and says that there's a decision to be made and he hasn't quite made up his mind yet, and leaves everyone hanging. And he sort of gloats about the fact that he's going to make these guys squirm. So we really don't know what's going to happen. Anyways, that's what happened in this episode. We know it's building up to something big as always. I'm going to keep you posted. Don't forget to follow us on social media. It's Paul and it's B&B Talk. Have a great night.